So here's the man, Jeff Cooper, great man. He's passed on now. He was a colonel in the Marine Corps. He was the founder of Gunsight. He was a major player in the self-defense world, in pistolcraft, you name it. He was excellent. And what this course is based on, largely, is his pamphlet that he wrote. And it's just fundamental. It's so good that it bears repeating. It's also based on my experience of over 24 plus years in the Marine Corps and my study of human nature. And of course, all those presuppositions that we just discussed. They're very important, and so with that, we go into our principles. We must also consider the philosophical aspects and the legal aspects of self-defense. So I'm very briefly going to discuss these things with you here. Now, when we look at, from a philosophical level, self-defense, it's clear, both in the Judeo-Christian ethic and in many other philosophers, that recognize our fundamental right to self-defense. So we have here, we could talk about many different scriptures in the Bible. We can look at John Locke, who said self-defense is the first natural law. Marcus Tullius Cicero said this, and of course this is a translation: I refer to the law which lays it down that if our lives are endangered by plots or violence or armed robbers or enemies, any and every method of protecting ourselves is morally right. Okay, all these philosophies are recognizing our inherent, inalienable right to self-defense. One note on a philosophical level on negative rights and positive rights. Negative rights are simply freedom to act. Okay, so in other words, we could say it like this: you have the right to life, liberty, and property, and no one has the right to take that away from you unjustifiably. Okay, positive rights are claim rights. I have the right to health care. I have the right to education. Okay, these get mixed up all the time. The only rights we really have are negative rights. Those are our rights, our freedom to life, liberty, and property. You don't have the right to take somebody's life unjustifiably. Nobody has the right to take your life, your property, or your liberty unjustifiably. Okay, so we need to understand that from a philosophical level. Now, legal aspects of self-defense are important, and they bear discussion. Now, this is not legal advice, of course, because there's too many variables involved. You have to understand your locale, your county, your city, your state, rules and regulations and laws. You have to get smart on that. You have to take responsibility for understanding that. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some generalizations. And that is this: as a general rule in the United States, we have the right to self-defense. So it says, person is privileged to use such force as reasonably appears necessary to defend him or herself against an apparent threat of unlawful and immediate violence from another. Okay, so that's a generalized rule. Now, different states recognize that to different degrees. That's just the fact of the matter. So again, we can talk about inalienable rights all we want, but the reality is that different states approach that very differently. Some further generalizations. Let's talk about castle doctrine. Castle doctrine can be stated like that, and in other words, it'll be a law in a particular state that is labeled castle doctrine. Or a state can have essentially or practically castle doctrine without naming it such. And that's simply this: that in your habitation, in your abode, in your house, in your dwelling, you have the right to defend yourself, your family, and your property. Okay, that's basically castle doctrine. Now, if you take a look at that bumper sticker there, it says no duty to retreat. Now that implies something. If I say there's no duty to retreat on a bumper sticker, guess what I'm implying? That there's some states that have a duty to retreat. And that is true. Many states have what are called duty to retreat laws. I would say that those states do not recognize your inalienable right to self-defense. So what they would say is that, hey, unless you're in danger of immediate danger, you must attempt to retreat. Okay? This is a very dangerous dangerous precedent, a dangerous law. It's going to confuse the citizen. Their personal defense is kind of struggled because they're not clear. They don't know, hey, I'm going to probably get arrested if I try and defend myself. And all those kinds of things. So we have to be very careful with that. In fact, I wouldn't live in a state that had a duty to retreat law. There's also stand your ground laws. This came in response to duty to retreat. So stand your ground laws, simply stated, are the antithesis to duty to retreat, meaning you don't have to retreat. If you're in a danger if your life or great bodily harm is impacting you, then you have a right to self-defense. So those are some generalizations with regards to legal aspects. Now, just a word on signage. As you can see on the slide here, there's some signage. It says, warning, we don't dial 911. Warning, no trespassing. Violators will be shot. Survivors will be shot again. Now, if you have these signs, immediately throw them away. Throw them away. These are terrible signs. That's just the truth of the matter. They're terrible signs. Now, are they going to deter people from wanting to, rob your home? Not any more than, say, the signs on the right. Okay, but what they will do is cause some legal problems for you, potentially. Okay, so we don't ever want to have signs like this in our yard that would make it seem like we are not taking our self-defense responsibly. Okay, so get rid of that type of signage. That signage down there on the right is great stuff. And I believe that it's a good layer of defense. So for your home, so signage is good.